What's up, guys? It's Dustin with Two Brothers Comics, and today we've got another Mad Cave creator here with us. We're going to be talking Savage Bastards with Mr. David Galiano, so stay tuned.
Okay, you were the goofiest human being I've ever met in my life, but I think that's pretty funny. So, yeah, very excited to be with you guys this morning. We do have another creator from Mad Cave Studios, which has quickly become one of our favorite indie comic publishers and just publishers in general. We've read just about every one of their titles here lately. And without further ado, we have Mr. David Galiano. How you doing, sir?
How's it going, guys? I'm loving the hat, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
When Dustin does something, he does not do it lightly. You know what I mean? So it is. I think I guess it's appropriate for what we're talking about today, right?
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Good deal. And David, if I'm not mistaken, were you one of the talent search winners from
Yes,
Mad
sir.
Cave?
I was one of the in the first string of talent search winners with Jay Sandling
Yep.
and Anthony. So yeah, Anthony Cleveland.
Fantastic, man.
That's
Fantastic.
awesome, man. I mean, we've talked about this talent search with most of the guys we've had on here from Mad Cave, and it's awesome that they're doing that, because some of our favorite titles that we read are coming from this Mad Cave talent search, and the fact that Mad Cave is the only one that does this, it's awesome. But at the same time, it's kind of crazy that nobody else is picking up on that, because it's finding talent like you guys. And it just kind of makes you think, how many other guys out there with this kind of talent are there that's not being given this chance? So for a company like Mad Cave Studios to give that opportunity, it's really cool, and it's definitely been advantageous for the Mad Cave brand. I mean, I definitely think so.
Yep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have gotten an opportunity like this anywhere else. It was a blessing, to be quite honest, and because of that, it's skyrocketing my progression in writing comics, which is absolutely phenomenal. I owe a lot to Mad Cave.
That's awesome. We'll get into that in just a second, kind of your progress and how you got into it and all that good stuff. But I wanted to say hey to a couple of people in the chat. Southern Comic Geek, nice to have you. Backseat Driver, hello. Dustin is headed to a Garth Brooks concert. He's been to a few. Now, Justin, if a pirate book comic comes out, will you dress as a pirate?
dress up, dude. This is a regular everyday get up for me sometimes. What you talking about, man?
God. You're so full of it. What's going on, Superior? Comic Jabroni, how you doing, sir?
What's up, man?
And then the Mastodon, how y'all doing? So, all right. So, David, let's kind of, our first topic, let's talk a little bit about yourself, kind of, maybe where you're from, and then let's dig into kind of your comic origin story, if you will. So,
All right.
You have the floor.
All right. Well, I'm from Palm Bay, Florida. It's we're about 40 minutes from the beaches, about an hour from Orlando. I actually live in a community called Brevard, and we have a huge nerd community here. A lot of comic book stores and nerd stores, and a lot of cool creators and stuff. As far as my comic book origin story is concerned, I decided probably a year and a half before I did the Mad Cave Studios competition that I wanted to write comic books. Back in the day, I wanted to be an artist, and I loved, like Jim Lee and all that kind of stuff, but I just didn't have the talent for it. But I've always loved comic books in general, and I started to really fall in love with the writers, especially when Jeff Johns came out with his stuff, or Gail Simone, Greg Rucka, that kind of stuff. And I really started paying attention to the writers and got really interested in it. And I spent about a year and a half seriously studying how to write comic books. I bought everything I could get my hands on as far as like instructional books, watched YouTube videos, read all the classics that I could find, just really studied how to write comic books right before I got into the competition. And then before I'd only written maybe like one or two scripts. I saw the Mad Cave contest, and I was like, oh, let me enter this and see what's up. And I won.
So let me ask you this with the Mad Cave. What was the book you chose to do your script on?
So actually, at the time, they only had, I think, 3 IPs out, really.
Okay.
And so you could choose to do 1 or 2 of their IPs. So I chose to do 2. I did one for Midnight Task Force, and then I did one for the Battle Cats.
Okay,
absolutely.
the Battle Cats one I did was actually from the perspective of a soldier in one of their castles when it's being taken over by the evil version of the Battle Cats, and basically like all the crap that was going through his head before he gets murdered by this raging evil Battle Cat. And then the other one I did was for Midnight Task Force, where I focused on the one aspect of the story that kind of irked me a little bit, and I'm sure that it gets.
No. We froze for a minute. It happens all the time.
We froze?
No, he did.
Oh, okay.
It's all good. It happens. It happened with Mark London.
Well, in YouTube right now, I mean, we all know that YouTube's having issues too, so.
Yep, absolutely. Oh, no. Well.
Hang in there, guys.
All right. So if you're in the chat, it's nice to have you. I'm gonna tweet him. Say hello to some people in the chat.
All right. So let's see. We got backseat driver was in second. We said hey to it looks like we've said hey to everybody. So hope you guys are having a good morning. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. I hope everybody's got their coffee and questions ready. Yeah, I know, right, Comic Jabroni? No, he's coming back, man. He's coming back. You guys just make sure, throughout the video that you guys come up with some questions for the end. Just like we always do when we have these creator interviews, there will be a giveaway. So if nothing else, you guys like to hang on and get those giveaways. We're always giving something out. So,
and that's right, Mastodon. It definitely would not be a YouTube live stream without technical difficulties. It happens, man.
Sorry about that, guys.
No, it's fine, man. It happens all the time. Right now with YouTube and StreamYard, the amount of traffic being thrown through, it's kind of crazy. And like right now, YouTube's not even putting out notifications. People are going live. Or putting them, up in the notification in your subscription tab. They're trying real hard to mitigate the amount of traffic, and so that's why we do so much kind of putting it out there beforehand now.
You know what they say, you fall off the horse, you just got to get back on and keep riding.
Oh my God.
It's going to be all cowboy talk.
Maybe you need to do like a pirate cowboy book.
There you go.
And yeah, YouTube has been going through some crazy issues, but we're going to make it through it, guys. We appreciate you hanging in there. But anyway, so the last thing we heard was Midnight Task Force, and you did the script on something that bugged you about this story. Oh,
yeah. So the main character goes into a bathroom with a female, and they're making out, and you're getting hot and heavy and such. And then she sees that he has a cybernetic arm, and she like loses her S and, slaps him and leaves, and she's all upset and like that. And I was like, let me focus on this because it takes place in Detroit and like that. I'm going to make a story about a serial killer who is stalking the detective because he's obsessed with purifying people, like removing their cybernetic parts, because his father used to work in a factory that was, because Detroit was the car capital, and then, later it fell into slums and then became the cybernetic capital. And then that fell out as well. So it kind of left Detroit destitute a little bit. So he's obsessed with just removing cybernetics from people. So he really wants to take the cybernetic arm from the main character, and that's why I focused on, because I was like, it gave that one little moment a little bit more of a backstory, like, oh, this is why people can't stand the cybernetics, because it screwed over so many people's lives when they pulled out of Detroit, the cybernetic creators. So.
Well, I'm very interested to see if they come back and do a sequel to that, or an addition to that book, because it was left it extremely open-ended. And I immediately, after I finished reading the trade, I went and tried to find the next run, and I realized quickly that one's not come out yet. So I hope they end up doing something else with it, because it was really intriguing. So awesome, man. So let me ask you this then. Were you a big comic collector growing up? I know we kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but kind of tell me about kind of how you got into comics.
So my dad hates to read, absolutely hates to read. And, when I was younger, I was dyslexic, and it was hard to read because of that. I got through that by reading some of those smaller books and things like that, like Dr. Seuss and things, but I just wasn't digging the whole reading thing, and my dad decided to try maybe picking up a couple comic books for me. Now, I grew up in the 80s, so comic books in the 80s had a lot of had a lot of words and things in them. So when he picked those up for me, it was a struggle at first, but I just loved the pictures and I loved the action that was going on, and so I struggled through it to the point where I really started to pick up with my reading. I got much better at reading. I started reading novels and stuff after that, and I just developed a love of reading because my dad decided that, hey, you like superheroes? Let's buy comic books and have you start reading that way. I collected most of my life. I mean, in the 90s, I kind of fell off the wagon because there was just a lot of crap coming out in the 90s. I mean, there were some great stories too, but I mean, the industry was not at its peak at that point in time.
Liefeld was putting out just phenomenal books and artwork.
You're right.
And
not enough pouches though. I felt like Liefeld really like lacked in the pouch area
and feet.
And
Yeah,
feet.
you could say he was at the foot of the problem. Oh.
I don't know. I mean, I don't understand how there's so much rubble and things like that out in the world that that the heroes have to stand behind it all the time. But whatever.
Well, I tell you, my favorite thing about him is if you Google the worst comic book artist in history, his name is what pops up. Which is
it's funny because back in the day on that New Mutants and X-Force, I loved Liefeld. I thought Liefeld was amazing, but
his Twitter is where it's at though.
Yeah, I follow him on there.
I joined Twitter just to watch him. So awesome, man.
And I can kind of I can relate to what you were talking about, with you and your dad, and problems reading, not liking to read, because I grew up and I was never ever a reader. I hated reading. I wasn't a fan of school. I always did well when I had to write a paper or something, but I think that was more because I'm a good bull crapper. But when it came to reading, I've never been a fan of it. I read the Harry Potter books when they were coming out. That's probably the only thing I can think of that I actually read. And when I got into comic books, at first it was something, when Nick got into it, I kind of looked down my nose at him on it. And then I started reading them because I found things that I was interested in. And it feels like now that's all I do is read. I mean, I have a 60-inch 4K TV hanging in the living room, and it never gets turned on unless my kid's watching it. I mean, I'm way more excited to read a book that I'm getting on New Comic Book Day or a back issue I just picked up. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely right there with you. Comic books have really, really changed my outlook on reading, and I can tell a difference in, when you're reading all the time, you start to be able, you have less issues when you are reading, I think, especially if it's something you're interested in.
Yep.
Well, and what's great too is that there literally is a comic book for everybody out there now. Like, I mean, at this point in time in the industry, you could spend, every day just reading crime, noir comic books and not run out of material. You could read children's comic books and not run out of material. I mean, there's pretty much everything out there. There's Westerns now they're back again. So
except books, but we're working on that.
Oh man. All right. So let's jump into it then. So let's talk about Savage Bastards. Okay. So here's issue number 1. Issue number 2 just came out on what may be the last New Comic Book Day for a couple of weeks. I've not been able to go pick it up because my comic shop is still closed. But let's talk about it and kind of your inspirations from it, how you got involved with this book, everything about it. Okay.
All right.
So you go ahead.
So Mad Cave went to all of us winners, and they had IPs already set up, and they pitched, we were to pitch to all the IPs that they were talking about doing. And I pitched to Savage Bastards like I pitched to the other ones. And I guess they felt that Savage Bastards fit me best. When it came to developing it, though, I didn't want to do just a straight Western because I'm just that kind of person. And I ended up doing like a lot of world building and that kind of stuff that when I was developing this book. But I wanted to have a little bit of a fantasy element, nothing crazy, no magic and spells and stuff like that, but something that just took away from the Western a little bit. Their big concern was they just want to make sure that it had a lot of comic tropes in there. So a lot of Western tropes in there. So I threw a lot of Western tropes in. So it's a fun read, It's not like going to be a classic among everybody's collection. But if you like westerns and you like something a little different, a little fun, a little funny, then I feel like Savage Bastards is probably right for you.
So
absolutely, I really enjoyed it. Sorry, Nick. Go ahead.
You go ahead. I talk too much, anyways.
Okay, I'm not going to disagree. Yeah, I loved it. Of course, I didn't go out and buy this stuff today. I've got 6 pairs of cowboy boots in there. I've got exotics and stuff. So I mean, it's always been something that I've enjoyed growing up in the South in Georgia here, and watched westerns growing up, and I really enjoyed the book. I love what you're doing with the characters. I read the preview when it came out. This is actually my preview copy here, and this is probably one of my favorite previews that I've gotten so far. You get the bookmark, the big old school wanted poster.
Yep.
Really, really cool.
And the giant sticker.
Yep, and the giant sticker. So, I read the preview, and I thought I had an idea of what was going on. And then you get into issue 1, and it just kind of opened my mind. It blew my mind a little bit, because I was like, oh, like this is going to be cool. I see what you're, when I found out what you're doing. And finding out, who the Savage Bastards are. Because when in my head, I'm just thinking Savage Bastards, like, okay, it's this crazy gang of, outlaws, and they're probably running around rummaging through towns. But then you find out, oh no, they're literally Savage Bastards. Like, cool, man.
I wanted to be a little literal with the name. Because I know that people were going to see the title and think like you did. Oh, it's just going to be like a gang of cowboys running amok, or whatever the case may be. I wanted to do something a little different, and honestly, it was my fiance that helped come up with the full idea of what to do with that title. So I gotta give her a little credit there.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, man. Right on. I didn't see her name in here in the credits anywhere.
Yeah, they won't let me do that.
Well, I tell you,
my silent partner.
So did Carlos? Did he do the cover on this thing as well as the interior?
Yes, he did the cover and the interior. Now there's an alternate cover by Vanessa Del Rey, I believe is her name.
Okay.
And that one was like a store exclusive. They only got like 10 each store or something like that.
That's awesome.
But yeah, Carlos, and that's painted. He did a painted cover, so it has that whole pulp, look to it from the old pulp comics. So
that's exactly what I was about to say. This right here just by itself speaks to the classics.
Oh yeah,
and I love and I don't know if this was anything that he did on purpose or not, but it kind of reminds me of the Hulk 340 cover there a little bit, with the knife in place of the Wolverine and the reflections,
the claws. Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know if he did that on purpose, but yeah, I definitely see that. He was. Let me tell you, Carlos is a genius when it comes to the art. Like, if you look at the interiors, the artwork is actually done so it's like the newspapers back in the day, in the West and stuff like that. Obviously they didn't have cameras to take pictures of action, or to show what was going on in the city. So you'd have these drawings. So his style in the comic book is very much that style of like a Western newspaper style, it's fantastic because Carlos is one of those guys that can do like full realistic art, as well as cartoon, and that's the other thing. So he chose to do this style on the inside, and it just worked. When I first saw the mock-ups, I was like, oh my God, like this is fantastic. This is great.
And the detail, everything about this have been wonderful. If you look at the detail on the holster, and like you said, and the interior artwork is absolutely wonderful. And later on, I may show a couple of panels, but go ahead, Dustin.
One thing, you talking about the interior, I saw one panel, and I can't remember if it was issue 1 or 2, but it was where they had made their way to the Indian reservations.
Yeah, issue 2. Yep.
Okay, so and you see the chief sitting there, and you could, like, even though that you can tell it's supposed to be an image from afar, you can still see the detail on the headdress, and even where the shadow's catching it, and you still see little glimmers of the red on the headdress, and that stuff like that I was noticing. I was like, man, this guy's like, he's hitting it on the head.
And he did the colors too. He did all the inside. Like,
yep.
Yeah, so. Right on. He definitely smashed it, man. It was awesome. And that was another thing. And I don't want to get too far, but you know, when you think of westerns, you think of cowboys. What are cowboys if you don't have the Indians? So
Exactly.
when they wake up and they're with the Indians, I'm like, yes.
let me grab that issue too, so you can show the. Let's see if we can do this here.
Here, I'll make it big screen.
But yeah, so he painted this cover as well.
Yeah,
it's like crazy,
fantastic.
Beautiful. It looks like the Indian's going to swallow the two characters up. I mean,
yeah,
absolutely fantastic.
And I didn't even realize whenever I got that I guess I didn't put it together when I looked at the cover. I didn't realize it was an Indian there.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'm reading through, I'm like, that's what's on the cover there. Like, I can look at it. I'm like, man, that looks awesome. Because at first I was like, well, the first one looked really cowboy and western, and not really seeing the second one yet. And I'm like, it looks really cool. And I flip it open. I'm like, all right, now the cover for issue 2 looks genius to me. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's an absolutely amazing artist. I couldn't be luckier than to have been paired with him. So, and he fit the story so well.
Yep. And then another thing I wanted to point out was Miguel Zapata.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I'm making sure I pronounce his name even somewhat close. He had some work to do with this lettering because you put in some serious
dialogue in that first one, yeah.
And after we had Justin Birch on, so one of the questions I asked him was, when you read comics now, do you sit and kind of criticize, or not criticize isn't the word, but evaluate kind of where the lettering is and think about how you would have done it versus this? So when I'm reading it, I'm sitting here, I'm like, man, that was really kind of some of the perfect spots to put some of this big long dialogue. So I mean, he did a really good job keeping it balanced.
I especially love the scene, not giving too much away, but where they've captured someone, we'll say, and they're in the forest, and it's this, this nice long beautiful panel where they're having a discussion between two characters, and the way he does the lettering there is just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, a lot of people don't give the letters the credit they deserve, but lettering is an art form in itself, and if it's done wrong, people are going to notice, and it's going to make the book terrible. But when it's done right, nobody notices, so nobody gives them credit. If you do your job fantastically, then nobody knows that you're doing a fantastic job. It's pretty bad.
Kind of like he put it, man. They're like the offensive line of comics.
Mm-hmm.
If you're doing it good, great. If you're letting your quarterback get hit, everybody's blaming it on you. So awesome, man. So let's jump back into it from your perspective and kind of what your handle on this was. So give everybody kind of a synopsis of, if you will, of the book. And I'll start it off kind of with Sam and Elliot, our two main characters, right?
Yep.
Now, was that purpose? Did you pull it from Sam Elliott?
Yep.
All right.
One of my favorite like Western quote unquote stars. Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I saw that, I was like, man, that's got to be it. The only one that would have been more obvious is if you would have called him like Wayne and John or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sam Elliott, man that never ages.
Yeah. So basically, the story is it's got elements of family, good and bad. It's got elements of loss, betrayal, revenge, all kind of put together in one story. I don't want to give too much away because I feel like it takes away from the book. But there's the bastards is a literal meaning, and that all the characters pretty much in the book are bastards from one man, an evil dictator type gentleman. And so it's basically a story of two brothers connecting, getting to know each other for the first time, and make exactly. Low key, I made it because I knew that you guys were going to interview me about this. So, but no, yeah. So it's their journey to basically take this evil man down, their father, and what happens along the way, basically.
That's awesome, man. That's
awesome. I think my favorite character, and it's probably a little cliche, but I mean, Sam has definitely got to be my favorite character so far. And I've always been a big movie buff, and sometimes I hate that I do this, but it's just the way my mind works. So my mind automatically, after reading issue 1, kind of took me to Wild Wild West. And I kind of, to me, Sam kind of had that same Will Smith cowboy, just real. He's smooth, he's slick, He's got that lip on him, but he can
Mhm.
back it up every time. He'll walk in a bar and, you know, talk down to everybody and without them even understanding that he's doing it. You know, his use of vocabulary and showing that he's educated. And, you know, he's in here with all these, you know, drunkard cowboys and everything. And just, you know, they don't even understand that he's, you know, he's talking down to them. And
Mhm.
I loved it. And then, you know, when it's time to start, you know, throwing lead, you know, he has no problem just, you know, wiping out the whole crowd. It was really, really cool. I love how you wrote Samuel for sure.
Yeah, Samuel's one of those guys who yeah, he's had a rough life to begin with, but he's very intelligent, very well spoken, and he's one of those people that won't take any guff from anybody. You know,
Yeah.
like he's a black man living in the West, and he's not, you know, he's not afraid to be himself and you know, to walk tall and back himself up if he needs to. So you know.
Yeah, and I mean, you even mentioned, I believe, you know, that he was a free man, or like so. I couldn't tell. Was this supposed to be taking place like shortly after, you know,
It's the
slavery, or
1870s.
during? It's when?
Yeah, so this is after the Civil War, shortly
Okay.
after the Civil War.
Okay, so yeah, so I mean, he's obviously, the fact that he's that educated, and you know, they, definitely an intimidation factor, you know, for him, you know, when he walks into a bar, so that, you know, they don't understand how he's this smart, and they're intimidated by the fact, you know, hey, you know, where'd you learn them words, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, I love it. You know, like I say, you know, he can kill him with his words, and you know, if he has to pop that holster open, he can do that too.
See, and I love this because when you write a character, you don't know how people are going to respond
Yeah.
to the character. You don't know if they're going to get what you're trying to do, because I mean, it's a comic book, so you know, you have to tell a lot of the story through the visuals and such, and you know, dialogue is usually more of a minimal kind of thing. So the way that he carries himself, and a lot of that is credited to Carlos, you know, the way that he draws him, the way that he carries himself, like he does not look like the person that's intimidated. I mean, look at the cover there, you know, he's got, you know, Elliot behind him, you know, while he's facing off against, you know, whoever's going to try to kill him there. So, you know, he's not the kind of, he's not a character to be messed with. And I love the fact that it comes across that way, because you just don't know when you're writing it, you know?
Right.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned Hell on Wheels. It kind of reminds him of that. And then I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, maybe kind of Common from, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but Common was kind of a similar character.
Yep.
That was fantastic.
That wasn't his name. That's who, you know, like his.
No, I know who
name.
Common is. Yeah.
Just for people out there, like, there's nobody named Common in Hell on Wheels.
Well, it's the same with, like, I've heard people say Django a couple times and stuff like that.
Man.
You know, right?
One
And
of the greatest movie. There it is, Django Unchained.
yeah, I love Django. Absolutely love it. But you know, I tried to make him you know, more of a like an intelligent character, like the smartest guy in the room kind of thing, because you know, I felt like that would just fit his story. And you know, of course, I love the fact that these are two half brothers, and you know, one's white and one's black. You know, we don't really get into, you know, all that, but you know, it's fun to see that you've got you know, you got a very intelligent, well put together, you know, gentleman in Samuel, and then you have this kind of goofball, you know, kind of pansy kind of character who's, you know, who's lived a very cushy, you know, cushion life, who hasn't had to fight for anything.
Couldn't even decide if he wanted to walk across the street to the bar.
Exactly. He's got so intimidated by seeing Samuel. So yeah, I love the duality that's there.
That's awesome, man. And you did a very good job with it. And again, I haven't had a chance to read issue number 2 because my comic shop was closed. But Dustin, I mean, you said the story.
I'm reading
just
issue
continued
number
to flow.
3 today.
Yeah, so we do have access to that Mad Cave hub, and I forgot about that and haven't had a chance to get on there and do that yet. But yeah, man, you did a phenomenal job. And one thing I wanted to ask about was, so, and this is because I'm kind of nerdy, and that's the whole reason I ended up in comics, because I wanted to see source material and where people came from. What were the biggest inspirations for you in creating these two characters? I mean, was it a movie? Was it some books you read? Was it Sam Elliott himself? You know what I mean? Like, where did it come from?
Samuel was there. Like, as soon as they told me that they want me to write the Western, Samuel was at the forefront of my thoughts. You know, I don't know I can't pinpoint an exact influence, but a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies, a lot of strong Western characters, even a little bit of like of John Wayne in there, so Samuel was just my all over badass cowboy.
Oh yeah.
Whereas Elliot came from like buddy cop movies, the Odd Couple kind of stuff. You
like
got
the
guy
Starsky and Hutch, and
exactly the fish out of water kind of situation. Like it was. It's such a great tool to go back to when you've got a character who's being kind of thrust into situations that he's not prepared for, that he doesn't know how to react in, and so he developed kind of organically as well. Rose is kind of an amalgamation of a lot of strong women that I've met in my life. Like the strong single mother type, the woman that, she does it herself, she does everything herself. She takes care of her kid, raises him on her own, teaches him everything she can, does whatever she can to make sure that he is prepared out in the world. Like that's, so she, a lot of very strong women I've met in my life, are the role model for that character.
Yeah.
And then other characters in there. I mean, I wanted to go over the top villain, with Spider, like this wannabe English gentleman, who unfortunately was born in the South. So, he's kind of got a complex. Later on, you're going to meet some interesting characters like the Wendigo, the Hangman. Like there's, eventually when you actually get to meet Dara himself, Dara McDougal, who's the main villain in this book, you get to see his story and where he kind of came from as well. So,
Awesome.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, when I was reading, when I first started reading it, and I saw Rose, and the more we get to know Rose, she kind of reminds me. She's kind of got the same attitude that I think that I would say our mom has. Where, she's stern. She loves her kids. But if she's got to whoop some ass, she's going to do that if you step out of line, and she ain't going to have no problem with it. And she ain't going to be easy about it because, she wants you, like you said, you got to be prepared. You're not just raising kids. You're raising men to go out in the world. You need them to be prepared for what they do. They're going to be stepping into. And as a female, and my mom, we had both of our parents growing up. So, but I can understand, the complexity of being a single mother, having to raise boys, and, having to be more stern on them. So I really like that. And then when you talk about Spider and his complex, I immediately, the one giveaway, can you guess what the one giveaway for me was on his complex? What really gave it away for me?
I don't know. It's full of white outfit.
Yeah. The boots were the main thing.
Yeah.
Like those crazy
like over the top.
Yeah, I was like, wow, yeah, this dude definitely is feeling himself.
Like who wears an all white outfit with like these like over the top boots in the West,
Not very what's the word I'm looking for?
You can do it.
They wouldn't work real well. I can see them being an issue when you're riding and trying to make your way around, with those big outlandish boots and the big flaps on them.
They're not very practical.
And you see how he reacts when something dirty happens to him. Like he just loses his S. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the word I was looking for. The boots he has just don't seem like they'd be functional for the time and what he's going to have to do, but he'll sacrifice that to run around looking good.
Yep.
He's the Colonel Sanders of 1870.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Dustin, any other questions or anything like that for David in regards to Savage Bastards? And
so can I talk about? Can we talk a little bit about the part in issue 2 where he's training, or is that going to be too much?
No, we can talk about when Elliot's learning,
right?
How to defend himself. Yeah,
right. So again, movie buff. The first, one of the things that it made me think of, another, comedy Western, because that's kind of what I relate with Elliot. Like he's the comedic relief. And, do you remember what was it was Owen Wilson? Oh, Shanghai Noon.
Shanghai Noon, yeah.
So you remember, and Owen Wilson's out there, pow, pow, shooting the cans, and And then, he's just like, I guess that's something he, can't figure it out. And then all of a sudden, here you have this Asian cowboy who, well, he's not a cowboy to start with, but that was what I was seeing like through those panels. It's like by the end, like in the beginning, he's trash, but by the end of the panels where he's training, it's like, all right, dude's a full blown cowboy now. And it's like
it's my comic book version of an 80s montage. So when you read that, you need to have like some 80s jam like going through your head. Like the punch song or whatever. I can't remember what it's called, but just some great 80s music going through your head as you watch him just fumble and do terrible and then start to get it as it goes on. So
I had Kid Rock's Cowboy in my head. I don't know.
There you go. That works too. As long as it's some kind of music playing to to the montage, it works.
Because I was thinking kind of like you. I couldn't. The word montage wasn't, but now that's exactly what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I can see it like starting out when he's having the issues that you have like this kind of like you have one music, and then as he really starts to find his way, it kind of kicks into that really cool hard hitting cowboy from Kid Rock, and like now he's got it, now he's ready. It was really cool. I definitely loved it.
And I like what Carlos and I did with the panels on the pages. They kind of mirror each other. So on the first page is him trying to do all these things and he sucks at it, but on the second page, it's the same panels, but he's actually getting it this time,
Right.
So I like that whole, again, duality. There's a lot of duality in this book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just like using that word.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
It was definitely very, very well done for sure.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So for everybody at home, this book did come out February, what was it, 19th last month?
I believe so. Yep.
Okay. And then issue number 2 just came out last month, or last New Comic Book Day. Yep. You can still order both issues from madcavestudios.com. So the link is right there. You can still order it. They will ship it to your door. If I'm not mistaken, they are not being affected by the diamond to get issue 1 and 2 out to you. So
and honestly, if you're really concerned about it, they're also on Comixology.
And they are in Comixology, and I believe one other place too, right? Let me see. There was one other place I think it was being advertised. Let's see.
I know that Amazon has it on the Kindle as well, but I think that's because it's through Comixology. So.
Yep, I think that's what it was. What I was thinking. So you're absolutely right. Comixology is another great place, but I'm telling you, you need to get a paper copy because this thing, I mean, it doesn't do it justice.
And I love having a floppy. I mean, digital is kind of growing on me. There's certain books that I'll read Marvel because I don't have the issues. But I still, you can't beat having it in your hand for sure.
Absolutely. I'm that way too. I have to have a physical copy when I'm reading.
Yeah. This is
and I really hate the fact that I love it so much after issue 2, especially like, I just read them both again this morning. So I was fresh on my mind, and now I'm like, great. Like I have to wait how long for issue 3? And this is going to be what, 5 issues?
5 issues. Yes, sir.
5 issues. So I'm like, man, now I have to wait. There's no telling how long, I got to wait. And so this is definitely one of those that's going to have me itching until we get comic books going again. Cause I loved it, man. It's just a mixture of so many things that I enjoy. And guys, you don't have to be into cowboys and Indians and Westerns and stuff like that. If you're into any kind of adventure type books, there's some comedy in here. There's a whole lot of other things that are in this book that I think will grab you outside of just, cowboys and Western style stuff. So if that's something you're looking at and you're like, it's not really my thing, give it a shot anyway, because there's a whole lot more into it than just that. That's just the best part.
So perfect. So real quick, if you want to win Savage Bastards issue number 1, after this is over, all you have to do is go into the comments, type in #Savage, right? That's it. Simple enough. And then in a week, we will draw, and I will buy and send you a copy of Savage Bastards and send it directly to your house.
Did you say that on purpose, Nick?
What?
Draw.
Oh my God!
You missed an opportunity. Missed opportunity, bro.
No, that's when you just go. Yeah, of course I meant to do that. Yeah.
And I tell you what, and I might even buy you issue number 2 and send that to you as well. Because Mad Cave, normally when we do these things, we're only on issue number 1, but since we're on issue number 2, I will throw in both copies. So I'll send you 1 and 2.
Oh wow.
And afterwards, man, there's a spine tick in my book. I hate that. Anyways, but I will send you 2 copies, number 1 and number 2. So after this, all you have to do is comment #Savage. So perfect. So David, do you want to continue to talk a little bit about well, hey Phil, nice to have you, Phil. Now, do you want to continue to talk about Savage Bastards? Is there some other things you want to talk about? Maybe some things coming up, some things you've done in the past. This is kind of your time. And
all right. Well, Savage Bastards is my first comic book, that I've actually created.
Yep.
I do have a Kickstarter that I'm going to try to start. Hopefully, if after the world ends, it's we're calling it Final Growth right now. I'm not sure if that's going to be the end title in the end, but it's basically a story of a post-apocalyptic world. Everybody's got one, but this one revolves around a father and son. The son has autism, and he's severely autistic. So the story basically is a man's struggle to keep a child alive who has special needs that the rest of the world doesn't care about. There's at this point in time, everybody's more selfish and more concerned about themselves and not being killed by the evil forces out in the world. So it's going to be one of those ones that's going to be kind of a hard read. Hey, how's it going? And because of the fact that it's going to go to some very dark places, especially the things the father has to do to his son to keep him alive.
Yep.
So I'm very excited about that. I've got a great artist that I'm working with on this, and I just cannot wait to get that going. I'm working on a couple of anthology projects. I'm not sure I can really talk about them because they're not my my IPs or whatever. So, but there's some cool things coming. I just I can't really talk about a lot of them. And then a friend of mine and I are working on scripts for a TV show. About working in a psych facility. It's like a dark. It was going to be a dark comedy though. So it'll take from my experiences of working in a psych facility.
Okay.
So pretty interested in that. Don't know if that's going to go anywhere or not, but it's just one of the things I'm working on right now. So.
Is it going to be like the male version of like a Harley Quinn?
No, it's the TV show is actually going to be more set in the real world. No heroes or anything like that,
Okay.
So imagine like Scrubs, but darker and less crazy cartoony feel to it.
Yeah. Very neat. So let's go back to your Kickstarter you're talking about setting up, and kind of what that's going to be like and what the process has been like for you. So how far along are you with that?
So I just finished. Well, I just finished the rough draft script for we're doing a 6-page little like intro piece that's going to go into another anthology called The Advocator.
Okay.
It's run by a gentleman named Travis Gibb. If you haven't talked to him yet, he's a fantastic comic book writer as well.
Okay.
He writes Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies. And he's done a lot of other like anthologies and Kickstarters and things like that. So that's going to go in there as like an introduction to our world. So the artist is going to start working on that soon. And then after that, we're looking to do like a 5 to 6 book series, just a little mini series. So it's going to take place in the 80s. And we're going to do some like really cool covers that kind of play off of 80s movie posters and stuff. Like we want to do one for Back to the Future where it's the boy and his father standing next to like a beat up, burnt out, DeLorean.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. In their like apocalypse gear. But so
that's awesome.
Yeah, we're going to be playing into a lot of that. Each issue is going to be named after like a 80s movie. So.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. So
that's going to be pretty neat.
Awesome, fantastic, just top-notch titles or headers then for sure because they're the best movies.
Well, and the best part is that like we're going to use the play on words thing, So like the first issue is going to be called Stand By Me, And the reason it's called Stand By Me is because the father's constantly trying to keep his autistic son near him, like don't go wandering off, that kind of thing. So,
right.
All of them are gonna be, they're gonna be a play on words kind of thing. So
I think
just
that's
had to
awesome, man. To have
fight
that repetition.
the biggest urge to not sing that song just now.
no, go ahead, man. We all want to hear it.
So Agu real quick asked, how's your cattle doing, Dustin?
Well, had to go fix fence post this morning. Crazy bastard try to get out of the fence and go off into the other pasture. It's not time to breed yet, and can't let them get off in there too much right now.
Ashton Kutcher is a better cowboy than you are, dude.
I haven't earned in my herd, so we're trying to keep them 6 feet apart at all times. But
so back on track. So Two Gun Pedro, he wishes that Savage Bastards was an ongoing series, and this was going to kind of be my question for you. So I know you're doing this miniseries, and you kind of have your own personal one coming out. Do you like the miniseries style, or would you prefer more of a long? When I say long term, but like an ongoing series,
like a volume 2.
Honestly, I would love to do at least, maybe not like a full ongoing series, but like at least a longer series. Like a 20-book series or something like that, where you really get time to chew the characters up a lot. You get time to chew up the story and really pace it where you can get a lot more like suspense and things like that built up. One of the things that has been both good and bad criticism of Savage Bastards is that it's very fast paced, and I totally agree with that. But I feel like that was done on purpose for the action. First off, I wanted there's some long dialogue here and there, but I wanted you to go from a little bit of long dialogue to right into the action, and some dialogue then right into the action. I wanted to pace it so that people didn't get bored reading it, and I wanted it to be kind of a quick read. So you go from beginning to end in one sitting, and you're like, oh, that was great, that was fun, or that sucked and I'll never read again. But
well, right, you feel like you're kind of like riding that high the whole time, and it's just like you're wrapped up by the end of it.
Yeah.
Well, and I'll tell you from a consumer aspect, somebody just reading it, I'm not sure if I don't think having a miniseries is necessarily a bad thing, right? Because it keeps writers, and not you or anybody else, but we'll say some of these bigger name writers on some of these X books and whatnot. You get these massive ongoing series, and you get drawn out for 10, 15 issues, and nothing has happened. And you're basically left sitting with, I've just invested all this time, effort, and money in reading these books. They've been fine, but there's been nothing of value to really happen. And I think that's one of the advantages with these miniseries is, you're on maybe a little bit more of a crunch, but I feel like I've gotten so much out of it. I feel like I've watched that 1.5 hour long movie, and you leave it open to where you can have a sequel, right? And so you can have the 10, 15, but each little bit, for me, is always a positive experience.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of my favorite writers is Jeff Johns, and I mean, he did a huge run on a lot of comic books. But if you read them, each individual comic book still has that wow factor. He's telling a story that, like, at a company like Marvel would probably take 6 books. He's telling you that same story in 3 books. But he's also setting up another couple stories down the road. And I really like that, that feeling of, I got so much out of these 3 issues, and yet, there's still so much more to come. I love that aspect, and if this was a continuing series, it's probably the same thing I would do with Savage Bastards, to be quite honest,
Yeah,
absolutely. And I do a show on Thursday nights, and me and a couple of other guys, we all read the Boom Studios Power Rangers series. And we were kind of talking about this where, the last few issues have just been like, we don't feel like we got anything out of it. There's not been anything at the end of them. There's nothing really to keep you hanging on. And, one thing we were talking about, and you guys, when you do these miniseries, right now, I think my favorite 2 that I'm reading right now, as far as a miniseries, would be Savage Bastards and Over the Ropes by Jay Sandlin.
Oh, that's a great book.
Each series, each issue, is raising the stakes. There are stakes in every issue, and you don't get that one issue where it's like, we could have not read this issue, and it wouldn't have affected the story if this issue wasn't here. There's no throwaway issues ever. and each one raises the stakes, and it leaves you at the end with like, oh, great. Now I got to wait a month for the next one to come out. What do I have to send Jay, or what do I have to send you, to try to like, hey man, go on and just mail me the next one in real quick. It's just, you've always, as long as you can keep raising the stakes in each issue, and keep the writer enticed, that's where you're going to win every time. And you guys are doing a great job with that. And like I said, leaving it open so that we want a volume 2. I have to go berate Mad Cave now because, I've only got one more issue of Over the Ropes, and then that's done. And I'm going to start emailing and creating different YouTube and Instagram and Facebook accounts. And I'm going to berate Mark London and Mad Cave Studios for another series, another volume.
Get on Chris.
And as soon as this one is done, I'm going to start doing the same thing because it's, and I'm going to really push for other people to do it too, because I can't see people not wanting a second volume to this.
Well, the genius part of what Mad Cave is doing is that they do these, like they usually do 5 to 6 books, and it's a full story arc, but it's left, to where, it could be a satisfying end or it could be continued on, and that's kind of what I feel like I did with the end of Savage Bastards here. I feel like I left it so, you get a nice, cleaned up ending, but you could go on further with the story, And what I would love to see, actually, to be quite honest, is I would love to see all of us contest winners being moved around to other IPs. I would love to see someone like Jay Sandling or Anthony Cleveland take on volume 2 of Savage Bastards, or even like a just a one shot, of some of the characters. Same. I would love a shot at Over the Ropes or Freak Show. I'm sorry, Show's End. I would love. I think that would be really cool, to kind of mix this around and do, like, even if it's one shot on each book. But right now, who knows? Because everything's up in the air with the end of the world coming. But
right, yeah, I mean that would definitely,
that's something I think would be
keep it fresh for us and for you guys, because I can sometimes I sit and think like, man, how has Todd McFarlane continued to not? How has this dude not got bored? 300 plus issues writing the same stuff. You look at guys like Claremont. How did he not get bored writing all those issues of X-Men? And I mean, I don't know. I'm not a writer, so I can't say. But I don't know if that's something you guys go through. If you were to write 100 issues of something, if you just kind of towards the end start getting a little bit tired of it or whatever. But I mean, I think that would be super cool. Having you guys move around on different titles that people are enjoying, and especially with the way you guys leave them off. I mean, we haven't gotten to the end of your book, haven't gotten to the end of Jay's book, but I know Anthony did a great job with Show's End with giving us the completion. But at the same time, we know that the show always goes on.
Exactly.
So the opportunity for it to come back, please bring it back. That would be, super cool. I don't know. It's crazy to me that Mad Cave is still such a small publisher with the gold that is coming out of there. Show's End. When I read that, I didn't read it when it was coming out. But when I read the trade, I read it twice. My wife is going to start reading it today. I mean, it was quickly one of my most favorite things I've ever read, period.
Yeah. Anthony is extremely talented. I'm very excited to see what he does with Stargazer, and I just in general, like, he's just a really cool dude. All of us writers from the competition are really cool. You guys haven't had a chance to meet him yet, but there's a gentleman named Stoney Williams. His book should be coming up hopefully after all this is done. He had some issues with the artists and things like that on his book, but I mean, he's one of those genuine guys I've met. Like, we've developed a really strong friendship. But like, Jay is another one of those guys. We all try to support each other. We all try to help each other. And Mad Cave is just putting together just a great family of writers and things. And what's really cool is actually working with the company itself. Like, Gio was my go-to for my editor. And she's the person I always talk to when I had an issue or wherever the case may be is. And I don't want to get too much into it, but there were some personal things that happened to me right after, like, basically a year for the full year after I won the competition. I had a lot of very very terrible personal things happen. I think it's like one of those balancing things where you get the good with the bad. But she was so just understanding, and there was no pressure. I mean,
Yeah.
I hit all my deadlines, but then for my edits and stuff like that, there was not a real pressure to get things in. She would just kind of check on me like, hey, where are we with this? And I'd be like, oh yeah, it's almost done. Here's what I got. Just absolutely phenomenal. So they've been so good to me, and the rest of us, that I really, I would love to do more work with them. I would actually love to do some of my own pitches, but I think right now they're mainly just doing their own IPs, which I understand.
Yeah.
It's better for them because then they can kind of control the narrative and put out things that they actually own. So, but it's been an absolute dream working with them though.
Yeah, you can tell you guys are a great support system for each other for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So real quick, I want to open it up to any questions in there, and while those are flowing in, I want to basically plug where you can go find David. So on Twitter, it's Comics by David, but you're also on Instagram, which is David Writes Comics.
David G Writes Comics.
David G Writes Comics. See, I almost remembered. But if you type in David Galiano, you'll pop up. It's fairly easy to find you. Now, the first question, I came in late, so may have already been asked. How long have you been doing published work, and how long did it take you to get your first published work?
So Savage Bastards is my first published work. I literally, like I was telling you guys earlier, I just finished studying how to write comic books. I'd only written a couple of scripts, hadn't even found an artist yet to work on anything when I saw the Mad Cave Studios competition, and then I applied for it, and when I won it, I was like, awesome, this is fantastic. So this is my only published work right now.
Okay.
How did you find out about the Mad Cave creator search?
Honestly, it was just a Twitter thing. I'd actually just signed up for Twitter because, again, I was researching, comics and everything like that. And everybody says you got to have a Twitter to be in comics. So I was like, okay, so I just signed up for Twitter, just, put my handle in there, the most imaginative handle ever, David G Writes Comics. I'm sorry, Comics by David, even worse. And it just, I started liking everything comic book related, and Mad Cave Studios came up and I saw there was a competition. I was like, oh, let me try this out. So yeah, that's the story of that.
That's pretty cool, man. Jay is actually the one that got us on Twitter. Before we talked to him the first time, he's like, why aren't you guys on Twitter? I'm like, to be honest with you, man, I don't know anything about Twitter. I don't tweet.
I still don't.
It's such a different platform. But he's like, man, you got to get on there. It's like anybody doing comic stuff is on Twitter. So, and it's actually very true. It's quite overwhelming sometimes. And it comes
anytime
with
you guys are talking to somebody on Twitter from Two Brothers Comics, it's not me. I promise you.
But it's amazing the amount of drama that's on Twitter within the comic book industry.
Oh man, I steer clear all that stuff. Like,
it just like it's not a news feed on Twitter. What is it? The main page where you scroll through. I don't know what it's called, but it's just like full of stuff. Donnie Cates did this, or Rob Liefeld did that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, last week,
oh man.
I was talking about it on another show last week. Ryan Parrott, I guess, had someone, so mad and frustrated with how he's writing the Power Rangers book. They, tweeted him, I hate your book and I hate you and this, that, and the other. And he's like, man, like, you hate my book, that's cool, but to hate me, like, dude, you don't know me. Well, why you gotta hate me for? I hate your book, but I don't hate you. I don't know you. But yeah,
Twitter's a double-edged sword. I mean, it's awesome that I can actually reach out to comic book writers and artists and stuff that I love, and they'll actually tweet you back. That's fantastic.
Right.
I actually got a lot of great information from Brian Michael Bendis when I was first starting out. I just tweeted him and he responded. It was fantastic. Same with Tom King and Tom Taylor. Like, anytime I've ever had like a question about the industry or something like that, I don't know if that's the cool thing to do, but I tweet them and they're like, oh yeah, do this or do that. And it's like, it's freaking awesome. But of course it is, like I said, a double-edged sword. I actually got dropped by another writer who I love, who I will not blow up on. I won't blow a spot up here, but he did a mass banning or something like that, mass block, whatever, for people because I guess I followed some Comicsgate writer that I didn't even know that he was Comicsgate, because I try to steer away from all that stuff as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so I got blocked from him, and he's one of my favorite writers. And it's just like, damn, man, like, can't you just individually block people? You have to do a whole,
And that's the other thing, is like, I don't even understand the whole CGO thing. I see it, and I don't even want to know about it. I don't want to know it's a mess.
Steer clear of all that. Steer clear. The social justice warrior stuff, the Comicsgate stuff. Steer clear of all that stuff. It's like I say with like all art. If you like the work, just like the work. Try not to get too involved in the artist's life, because you're gonna probably find something you cannot stand.
Yep. Yeah. And it's the same thing with actors, music folks. I mean, anything and everything. So just enjoy what they're putting out. Justin wants to know
into their personal stuff.
Any genre you're dying to write? Justin Birch asked.
Absolutely, and I think I'm starting to do that with the Kickstarter that I'm working on. I want to do horror. I love horror books. Big fan of, Scott Snyder's stuff, like now I can't even think of any of it. That's fantastic. But Witches and Severed and things like that. So I
Are you
love
reading any of the Joe Hill stuff right now?
Of course, absolutely. Like,
I just picked up almost all a basket full of heads. And I got issue 1 that I read already, and I really digging that one. So that would be cool to see you do some horror stuff too. I'm just now getting into that.
Well, the great thing about him is that he's so much better than his father at writing endings. So
I didn't even read Lock and Key. I wasn't collecting books at the time, but I've heard that was really good. Me and my wife actually just finally started watching it last night, and we were up to like 2 a.m, and we're watching it to episode 3, and she's like, "This is really good." I said, all I'm sitting here thinking is I want to read the comics, and she's just laughing, because like any before I picked up on comics, you always hear people say, "Oh, the movie's great, you should read the books," and I was the guy saying, why would I read the book when I can watch the movie and I don't have to read? Now I want to read the comics if it's available. I don't even care about the show,
Yeah, I've been trying to get not trying to. I can obviously get it. It's out there, but the slipcase with all the trades in it, because I watched the entire series when it first came out, and I didn't even realize it was Joe Hill until. Actually, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but he makes a very brief cameo, and I was like, oh my god, it's Joe Hill. And so I've been kind of on the hunt looking for the best deal. It's only like $65-$70
I didn't know that
all
they
the
had
trades.
something like that.
Oh yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah, cool. It is very nice.
And in that cameo, Joe Hill's got that sweet beard. He's got that nice thick.
Yeah, because you can get the singles right now. I mean, I wouldn't even dare try to buy the singles at this point right now. I mean, so hot. But I mean, I might have to, jump in on that hunt with Nick for that slipcase with all that stuff in it, though.
Yeah, something like that. I think it might be one of the better ways to read it, so you can just knock it out, be done with it, and enjoy it in one big batch. I couldn't imagine going and trying to hunt down all the singles, just the volume of it. But everybody has said that it's a much more horror style in the comics, and much more.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they said it's a lot more brutal and more adult than what you're getting on Netflix. So
yeah, Netflix, it feels kind of like a Goonies, haunted house kind of thing, and that's fine, that's great, but the actual comic book is much darker.
Yeah, darker. That's what I'm looking for. Everybody said it was so much more dark, but yeah, it was a good show. It's, I think, been one of my more favorite adaptation of comics and things like that. So, and he said, "Dang, I guess I don't know what Joe Hill looks like. I've been on the show, or I've seen the show. It's great." Yeah, if you see him one time, you can't really miss him again, because he's really the only guy in there with a beard for a short second, and
a lustrous beard. It's
fantastic. And then he's got like the weird looking bowl style haircut thing that looks like it still belongs way back when. But
listen, when you're that rich, you don't have to worry about your hair. I mean, look at Bill Gates.
I was about to say, wearing the same kind of t-shirt and pair of pants all day, every day. But anyways, man. So anything else? Savage Bastards, again. Issue number 1 came out last month. You can still buy it on Mad Cave Studios. Issue 2 just came out. If you type in #Savage in the comment section below after this, we're gonna draw. You're not gonna do it this time, Dustin? Oh my god. We're gonna draw for the name
Sorry, I was
next
reading
week, and I'll send you
comments.
issue 1 and 2. Okay. You can follow David on Twitter at Comics by David, and he's also on Instagram at David G Writes Comics
Yep.
with 1 G.
Yep.
And
And
anything
for
else?
guys, make sure that you don't put it in the comments on the live stream right now. Do it in the comments section for the actual video so we can see it.
Yep, absolutely. So anything else you want to plug, go over, talk about?
If I could, yeah, real quick.
Go ahead.
First off, pick up any Matt Cave book, to be quite honest. I mean, I can't think of any Matt Cave book that I've read that hasn't been, worth reading. But I know you had him on recently, but there's my boy Jonathan Hedrick with his Freak Show Princess and Capable. Both are fantastic books to pick up. And then, like I had said, my buddy Travis Gibb, with Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing a lot of anthology stuff with him. So, basically in Brevard, we've got a very strong writing community going on. And I just want to try to get all of those people out there to the rest of the world because, it's there's some great stories coming out of these indie books that we're doing. And, I think you'd be missing out if you don't get a hold of them. Broke Down and 4 Dead Bodies is like a cool crime noir with like a Pulp Fiction-y kind of feel to it.
Okay.
So it's definitely worth a read.
Now, are they self-published or are they published through?
They are self-published.
Okay. So you can still find them, pick them up even with the issue of Diamond. And now's the time to do it. I mean, right now is the perfect time to go out and buy those because you can't go get your Marvels, you can't get your DCs, you can't get the Image. So this is exactly what Dustin and I were talking about in a video that's going to be coming up. Now is a great time to try to catch up or try to dive into something new that maybe you've not had the time or the bandwidth as far as financially to dig into. So now is a great time for that.
And if your local comic book store is open, please, a lot of them are doing the curbside pickup and things like that. Some of them are even doing like you can call in an order and they'll ship it to you, whatever the case may be. Try to support the industry because if we lose these mom and pop stores, everything's gonna have to be online. You're not gonna have that gathering place anymore, the place where you can go and talk about comic books. You're not gonna be able to go and scroll through the long boxes and stuff and find the stuff you're looking for. So please support your local comic book stores as best you can. I mean, I know that everybody's strapped as well, but just try to support the industry any way you can. Kickstarters, whatever, you got a couple extra bucks here and there, order books online, whatever you got to do, but try to support the industry.
Yeah, we absolutely support that 100%. We preach that probably more than anything, even before this hit. Support your local comic shop has, it's been just as much our slogan as collect your way. And right now is, your comic shops, they always have been there, and now it's our turn to be there and help them out. So.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Well, if there's anything else, now's the time. If not, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up and let you get back to your
Nick
day.
is definitely a Glock head. I look at Wesson, man. I promise you, I have outshot Nick every single time though. So I guarantee you the Glocks ain't nothing.
Oh my God, you guys kill me. And what's funny is I don't even think Agu knows that my what do you call it? My occupation has been revealed. So he may be a bit disappointed. All right, so follow David at Comics by David on Twitter. You can buy his book on Mad Cave Studios, or just enter in for a chance for me to send you both issue 1 and 2.
This is my Blackest Night Batman hat.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
That is awesome. All right. So if there's anything else, now's the time. Anybody got any other questions, anything like that? No one knows what web services does, Nick. What?
I would say we could plug when issue number 3 is going to drop, but right now we're not sure on that.
So uncertain.
It's definitely uncertain.
Yeah.
Wash your hands, though.
20-second rule.
Exactly.
If you don't know how to wash your hands, I think Gordon Ramsay did a tutorial on YouTube that probably has, 100 million views by now.
How many times did he call you a cow while he was saying it? Wash your hands for 20 minutes, you cow.
You idiot sandwich.
What are you? I'm an idiot sandwich.
All right. So, David, at the end, we always do a collect your way with the finger guns you've been practicing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So,
All right, guys. So
Gotta lean back.
one more time, say, David, thank you for coming on with us. Guys, if you're not reading Savage Bastards, make sure you go pick it up. It is the rootin' and tootin'est, baddest book out right now in the whole wide West. Make sure that when we do get comic books back, you guys are quick on the draw to go pick up issue 3, because I'm telling you, you're going to be missing out if you don't.
And as always, guys,
Collect your way.